Hey guys, welcome back to Settling Marriage Podcast. All right, in this segment of our Journey to Supernatural Love episode, I am going to be introducing you all to some of my good girlfriends, business besties, collaborators, my prophetic ministry friends, and we've just been walking this journey together for several years now, and they have seen the behind the scenes of Natasha and even Ray. Two of them were a part of my bride squad, and all of them were privy to what was happening with Ray and I as things were unfolding in the fall and winter of 2020. Now, what's interesting is right when everything was happening, I did not quite know what exactly was going on with Ray and I at this time. We met in September, but again, remember now, we didn't really make it official until November. We didn't even talk on the phone until November. But on September 19th, my friend Caressa sent me a prophetic word. And here it goes. She said, God said everything you've asked him for will be given to you. All things concerning your life and business, ministry, and family. Your new family is here. This is your season and beyond to walk in the everlasting favor of God, the promises of God, the delight of God, the peace and joy of God. You are a wealth carrier. You bear joy and peace. And she went on to say some other things. But what I want to spotlight here is when she said, everything, all things concerning your life, ministry, and family, and your new family is here. Now, what's clear is that it was already there. I did not know it at the time, but Ray was already in my life. And literally, my life was about to get turned upside down in a new way. So let me bring on my friend, Caressa J. I call her CJ. Hey, Caressa.
Hey.
Okay, now when you hear that word and now you see it lived out, what do you think? And like, God is so amazing, right? But what do you think as you hear me kind of remind everyone and remind you of this word you sent to me?
Well, it was kind of shocking because some of the things you said, I'm like, I said that, that's so crazy. Because I haven't been back since to look at it or listen, read it. It's incredible. I remember like when for me saying that, I'm doing it in faith because I know you. Clearly, I know you weren't dating nobody at that time and you don't want to prophet lie. So it's kind of like I'm sending this to my friend who I really, really love. And I don't want to ever, send her something that's too OD, right? But I really believed it. And so I sent it to you on faith. And then to see it kind of spiral within 60, 90 days in a good way. It was just incredible. And just like, wow, I really do hear got a little bit, right? And then just to see him in your life. I had watched you for 5 years or so. And it kind of seemed unreal. We all talk about husbands and one day how we want to do this and that in business all the time. Like we talk every day about that type of stuff. So to actually say that and then see that, it's like, oh my God, it was like a wow factor, like all the way through.
So I remember when I first told you about Ray, and I kind of kept it under wraps for a while because I really just wanted to know, like, okay, these are like my girls who actually like know me, and they'll be like, you're crazy. And so I was trying to protect everything, and I just didn't want to hear nothing negative until I like knew for sure. Like I was just like kind of trying to like with certain people, I know y'all, like I know you and the ladies that we're going to bring on here next. And I was just like, well, I got to make sure sure is sure before I let these two know. So now I want to bring on my friend Tokeitha.
But wait, let me tell you something real quick. When you said that, I literally had a flash. So you had kept it under wraps and a secret. And remember, I saw flowers on your countertop. And I said, now if I get flowers, that's not unusual. But you don't buy flowers every day. So I'm like, where you get flowers from? And he was like, Chris, why you asked me that? And he was like, you're making it a big deal. I'm like, Natasha, wait, but you got flowers? Like it was a big thing. And I continue. And then he was like, well, maybe somebody gave it to me. I'm like, what? So that was not too long after that. So I thought that was funny because I was like,
yes, you're so right. I remember that. And I was trying to like brush it off, but Caressa, like I didn't get flowers. Nobody would send me flowers, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact that I had these fresh flowers, she was not taking anything for. She's like, I want to know what's up, honey. You are lying. You are hiding something. And she got mad at me. Like, why are you hiding something? Natasha. Then she was like, are they your moms? Like, did your mom's boyfriend send her? I mean, and then she tried to dig it out of me.
It was the weirdest thing. Like, who cares so much about flowers? But for some reason, my inner self just was like, yo, those flowers are for Natasha and she ain't get them for herself. What's the tea?
You wanted to know it all. So let's bring on TK. Oh my goodness. Hey, Tokeitha.
Hey, Tasha. Hey, Caressa. I'm laughing over here because I remember Caressa got down into it. She was like the private investigator. You're going to answer these questions because I know something is going on. And Natasha kept rerouting the question, reposing the question, redirecting the question. Then she went into, Caressa, just leave me alone. Like, just don't bother me, and was like really snappy. So that was correct. Caressa was spot on. It was like hitting the target every time. Caressa was like shooting the arrow and hitting it, and Natasha was like, no, nope. So I would be in the middle of it laughing or just trying to understand what the heck is going on here, because here's the other part to the story. I'm normally the one that gets it at the end, like the last, because the two of them, they're the private investigators. They're the nosy two, okay? And they get into each other's business and like everybody's business. But when it comes to putting the pieces of the puzzle together, they're going to keep going. And I'm not the type of person to do that. Like, I just was like, it's no big deal, Natasha. Like, okay, she got flowers. Caressa was like, nah, nope.
She knew it was something. She knew it was something. So, Tokeitha, all right. So then at one point in December, I called you all. No, it might have been it was the beginning of December or maybe the last week in November. And I called y'all. I was like, okay, we got to talk. And it was us three. I was like, I have to tell y'all something. And then I remember just getting in my car and I had to just prepare myself to tell you guys that I have been having this whole ordeal with this guy.
A whole relationship. For over 30 days.
And not just that, go back to the car ride, because in the car you were like, oh yeah, like I have a confession. Okay. I was like, okay, you have a confession? Yeah, I have to tell you something. Oh, okay, great. So I'm listening. I'm all ears in the car, because at this point in time, we were riding to Caressa's house to North Carolina. We had a 4.5-hour drive. So I have all the time in the world to sit and listen to you now. So you're just like, and then she still was like, and yeah, you know, I'm thinking about it. No, and then like it was.
So Tokeitha, this was before that, because we went to Caressa's for New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
I'm talking about before, when I first told y'all. Do y'all remember when I first told y'all about Ray? Because when New Year's Eve, we was married. Remember, it was already a done deal.
That's right.
When I first told y'all, I was like, guys, I think I met my husband. And I've been talking to him for like almost 30 days. And I think he's going to propose to me. And I'm going to see him in Houston.
And it was
layers upon layers.
Yeah, because it was too fake. That's what it was. And then you talked about the Texas number that you originally had. So I remember now. You talked about the Texas number. You was like, oh my gosh. And remember, y'all already had a Texas number. And then yeah, he's from Texas. And so you started telling us about him. But it happened like through the Facebook thing. So that was the first part of it. And let me just fast forward real quick, because this is when I had like a black blonde moment. This was the funniest moment ever. When you sent pictures to Caressa, and I was like, Caressa, does this mean that Tasha's already married or she's married? Like, what is it? And Caressa was like, it's done. It's a wrap. Like, it happened. I was like, no way. Like, I was still stuck at the beginning of that story when you just told us. So I was at the part where you was like, yeah, like I met this guy. His name is Ray. Like, so I'm still at that point. By the time the next step happened, we supposed to be the point B. I'm still at A. Tasha then went to C.
I remember that you talked to me and you were very confused. Like, I need you to confirm that this young lady is married. And I said, I think it's very clear that she is married. But Natasha, now think about it. You had drove me to the airport. It didn't tell me.
I don't know about that. We're gonna come back to that in a second.
See, what just happened? That's the reaction that we got the entire time. So it's good that you just did that, because that's what you do, and that's what you did. Like, oh my gosh, you see how she just was like, no, like that was the reactions that kept happening, like over that period of time.
I have a different reality of what happened. I'm going to tell y'all in a second because it relates to the next person we're going to bring on. So I'm going to bring on Bertrina Lyons. Now, Bertrina is like our big sister, little sister, sister friend, elder. I call her Elder Bishop Prophetess Bertrina. So we about to bring Elder Bishop Prophetess Bertrina on. Hey, Elder Bishop Prophetess Bertrina.
Y'all are funny.
So, okay, let me just explain my side of the story. Okay, this is what happened from my end. Okay, all right, so me and Ray are talking, and now Bertrina, I think I was talking to kind of Bertrina before I was telling y'all, because I needed Bertrina to pray to the Lord and tell me what the Lord said. So I was just like, Bertrina, here goes his picture. Here goes his Facebook page. I need you to look at these videos of him preaching. I gave her a whole list of things to do, and then tell me what you think. And so at the same time, me and Ray's conversating. But I told you guys, I think I brought you guys, Caressa and Tokeitha. I think I told y'all when I was about to go visit him. And here's the way my mind was working, because I just thought that they were going to tell me straight up, you're crazy. This sounds stupid. You don't know him. So I had to paint the prophetic picture for them. So I had to let them know. You see, back in 2015, the Lord revealed to me that I was supposed to move to Houston. And guys, don't you know that I've had a Houston number since 2015? And then I had got this prophecy in April of that year, and a prophet that I don't know, she reached out to me on Facebook, and she said, Instagram, she said, listen, I've had this prophetic word for you for a long time. And she said, but I didn't tell you because I thought it was stupid. She was like, but the Lord has been chastising me. And the Lord just basically said, your husband is going to be wearing a brown coat. And I was like, what? My husband will be wearing a brown coat. So it didn't make sense to me.
Oh my gosh. So as soon as you said that, I'm thinking that in your engagement pictures, the photo shoot with the dress on, he had on a brown coat.
He did. Did I say brown coat or suit? She said brown suit. She said brown suit. But here's the thing. So then I didn't know what that meant. But prophetically, the Lord speaks differently in prophecy. So basically, when I met him, I learned that his pastor last name is Brown. And so when it said your husband's going to be wearing a brown suit, the Lord was like, brown suit, a suit covers you. A pastor covers you. And so then I was like, okay, well, maybe. And then literally after that, I had a dream of a girl whose last name was Brown, and that she was getting proposed to from her boyfriend's last name was Brown. And literally I woke up the next day after I had that dream, and after this young lady, I think she had sent me the prophecy, I woke up and this young lady had gotten proposed to. So I was like, this is so weird. And then her name was about to be Brown. So I was like, Lord, are you trying to tell me something? And so it was just all these little clues that I have to unpack later. But I want to bring up Bertrina. Bertrina, tell us your side of the story. When did you know? And what did you think as you were hearing this all unfold? And just remind me of the silliness that I had you go through that year.
So I don't know where in the process I came in, but all I know is you called and was like, I think this guy's my husband. And I'm like, well, where'd you meet him? What's the story? Like, who is he? And you started to give all these details, and you were like, but here's all the signs. And you started to run down the list of signs. And you were like, but how do you know if somebody is your husband? I was like, listen, if you've got all the signs, if that's what you feel like, then listen, go with it. But I remember you being so excited. You had all of the signs. You were sure. I think you just still had those fears and those, those thoughts about any person would, or the nervousness. And I was like, Natasha, if God say do something, do it. Just make sure, you couple it with wisdom, but go with it. But I just remember you being so excited, running down the signs that God had been showing you through the whole process. You were like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? It was funny. It was funny.
I I got nervous because then I started nitpicking my husband, my future husband. And then I started sending videos. I'm like, do you think this is a deal breaker? Like, do you think this is a deal breaker? Like, what about this? Like, do you think this is a deal breaker? And Bertrina's like, no. Every time I was like looking for Bertrina, the prophet, the prophet of God, to give me this harsh word. And she wouldn't. And I'm just like, just rebuke me. Like, just rebuke me. Like, just tell me no. And I really, what are you saying, Caressa?
Yeah, I said yes. Don't you hate when she don't tell you a solid yes or no?
I can second that one too, because you be looking for you be like, I just want a clear answer, just a yes or no, something. And she be like, she just give you the wisdom, okay? You gonna get the wisdom to go with it, and then you gotta go back to the Lord and pray about it again, okay?
Well, Natasha, I do remember, I know we ended up discussing my marriage, and I was like, well, I got married quick too, but everybody's story looked different. Your story doesn't have to look like everyone else's. So even with all of the things you're picking apart, it still doesn't mean this is not the one.
Yeah. Bertrina, talk about your story, because honestly, I think that was one of the things that kind of comforted me, because along the journey, I kept meeting people with suddenly marriage stories. Bertrina was one of them. And then even Ray, people on his side, like one of some of our best friends, like married friends now, they got married within, they were engaged within 2 weeks. And so we have all of these suddenly marriage people around us. And I was hearing this and I was like, well, I'm just going to go out on faith, But one last thing before you share your story, Bertrina, I just remember I wanted to I was just asking the people in my life who were very wise, right? And I was just looking, because I kept once I thought it was Ray, I began to pray and I said, okay, Lord, show me what I'm not seeing. Show me like what I'm missing about him. Like what does he do wrong? Like what are his vices? Like what am I missing, Lord? And the Lord would show me nothing. And then it got to a point where he kept confirming for me, and he confirmed for me so many times, and I was still questioning. And then he had me write down all the confirmations, like put them in a note. And it ended up being like 20 different things that he had me actually document, but he would not show me not one thing wrong about this man. Not saying that my husband is perfect, but in the sight of the Lord, like he is like Abraham, he's God's friend. You know what I mean? And so I was just like, Lord, what is it? What am I missing? What is it? What is it? And I was just seeking somebody else to tell me too, like, okay, maybe, but it wouldn't happen. So Bertrina, let us talk about your suddenly marriage story.
So literally, of course, we don't have all day and night, but just to try to make it short and sweet. Similar to what you said. So a prophet, I was 21 years old. A prophet came, prophesied to me and said, you're going to be married by 22. And I'm thinking, what in the world? Like, I'm way too young. And so never even thought about really the prophecy again. And here I am, 22. Again, not thinking about getting married or anything like that. I had just gotten out of college, actually seminary. I was super focused, wasn't thinking about that. Started working for my church. And my now husband was the church security. And so I had to contact him because the church alarm kept going off. But when we got on the phone about the church alarm, we literally stayed on the phone half the night. When I went to sleep that night, I had a dream about him. And God told me that he was my husband, literally like overnight. Well, the next day, I said, I need to really talk to you about something. I don't know how to tell you this. He was like, I need to talk to you about something too. The next day was a Sunday, and we both got to the church. And he said, God showed me you laying on a brown couch with the veil on. And he told me that you were my wife. God had shown me the same thing, that he was my husband, the brown couch. I was living with my mom at the time, and she had a brown section on her living room, and I never would sleep in my bedroom. I always slept on a brown couch. And that's really how it started and how it kicked off. And literally, that was in August when we first met and started talking, and we got married in December. So what's that? 4 months, 3 or 4 months. And so literally God told both of us there would be no dating period. And I mean, people talked about us. They said we were crazy, all that. And even I thought I might have been crazy. I was like, I don't even know this person. But, you know, I started to read in the word where there were arranged marriages and things like that. And I went with God, and it's like, here we are 16 years later. We moved, we got found a church, and there was a pastor who was like waiting for us. We both started to have dreams during this period about water. And I said, I keep having dreams about a river. He said, I keep having dreams about a river as well. And one Saturday night, one of his friends called and invited us to the church. And the name of the church, it was in Baltimore, it was called The River. So we both were like mind blown. We get to the River Church, and the pastor literally at the end of the service calls us up to his office, and he says, I've been waiting on you two. He said, I've been waiting on you two. And he showed us in his journal, Natasha, he had us describe a description of us in his journal. He had like, the guy would be 6'2", 6'3", brown skin. He had a description of me, and we were mind blown, because at this point, because we had chosen to be together so quickly, our church had kind of, you know, they just was like, we're not dealing with them. They're crazy. So we said, well, we need somebody to marry us. Didn't know it was going to happen this way. And the pastor said, I know I don't know you two, but I know God. And God told me to marry you guys. And so 3.5 months later, at this point, we got married in Baltimore. And here we are 16 years later.
Wow. 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 My God. It's
what
so
a phenomenal story.
And she told me
I should have went and got some popcorn, because I mean that I'm over here. This is like, but this is better than reality TV to me. Like, you should have said, pause, go get the popcorn and get ready. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm over here, like, I'm into the story. Okay. That was so amazing. But one thing I can say in both of the stories that you all just told, there was confirmation there, but look at how it was customized to both of you all. Like, the way that God was speaking to you, he was customizing it to the way that you would understand, and the way that you get it, and the way that your relationship is with God. And he was doing the same thing with your mate. Like, and I just think that's so amazing, because it's like, when you often think about your relationship with God, you're like, okay, God, you talking to me. Okay, is that real? Like, okay, God. And then when you said like he was speaking to your mates at the same time in the similar pattern, it's like, okay, there go to number 2, y'all. You confirming it. Okay, it's confirmation, and it's coming back to back. I just think that's amazing. That's what
I picked up, because Bertrina shared how they both had a dream. And I didn't even know he was a dreamer, so that they both dreamed. And then Natasha kept saying before they got off the phone with each other, you and Ray, like y'all both knew. And so I thought that was so powerful. And I don't know if you remember it, Natasha, whenever he first followed you on Instagram, you told me about there's this guy. I know it sounds crazy, but he got muscles. He works out. And someone told me that this guy I'm going to have is going to work out or have muscles or something like that. So you said, remember this. And then a couple months later, he happened to be the guy that you told me about.
Yeah. And I think that I want people to get from this episode, like, one, God works supernaturally. And sometimes it makes no sense to people around us, because, again, I kept this under wraps. So the people who are on this episode, y'all, most of them are not my family. I might bring in my mom and my dad, because I did tell them. But I didn't tell my siblings. I didn't tell cousins. Nobody. I told the people who were walking with me in faith at the time. And God, I knew that you all would be able to understand the prophetic crumbs, you know, the breadcrumbs. Like, if I just share with you guys that these things, you know, even I was talking about this on another interview, but someone had prophesied that my husband would find me in the word, and God and Ray found me because he was searching self-deliverance, and Facebook sent Ray me. And so my video was in the search. And so just even how Bertrina talked about how they both had this confirmation, and there was this brown couch, and Bertrina slept on the brown couch, but then the people around them thought that they were crazy. And so when I introduced this, when we were engaged, I sent my whole family a text message, and like like all 50 of them, my cousins, all of them. And immediately I'm getting phone calls like, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy. I waited 3 years to get married. And I was like, I'm sorry, like, no offense, but you're not a man of God, or you're not in God's, like me, you're not rocking with God like me. So I'm not about to wait 3 years, and God wouldn't make me. And secondly, like, I feel like this is God. And if it's not, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Like, I'm not going to die. You know what I mean?
Natasha, I have a funny story. Because even though it is a suddenly marriage, there's still things that happen along the process. I mean, we had to start dating. We got married, but we had never dated. So, we started dating, all of those things. But after we were married, the first week we were married, and so my husband is a dreamer, he had a dream that my shoes were talking in male voices. So then, no, this was a quick transition. So, attachments I had to males in my life were still there. But he had a dream my shoes were talking in male voices. And so when we woke up the next morning, he said, let's go in the other room, and you need to remove all of the items that were bought for you by other men. He said, you brought into our home things that other men had given you over the years, or guys you dated, and it has to be removed. And we literally sat there for a couple hours, and I threw away shoes, I threw away clothes, I threw away jewelry that I had just accumulated from guys I had dated along the way. And so the Holy Spirit is very intelligent. You know what I'm saying? So he stepped right in, and we cleared that out. So it was funny, but it's funny now. But at that time, I was like, what in the world?
Yes, man of God.
Talking shit.
Listen, I am here for it. Gosh. The Holy Spirit gave him that information, that intel regarding his wife, right? And then not just that, the action that you took to respond to it, so that you all can continue on. Because what if it would have caused offense later on, or it would have came up with something? You could have been walking with a bag or had a shoe on, and then he get a vision, and then he's like, you didn't throw that out. You supposed to, just think about things like, I just think that's so amazing. And it shows how you two are knitted together. It just made instantly, I just keep hearing 2 by 2. And that's what it's reminding me of, 2 by 2. Like it matches, it works, because it's just, that's God. That's so amazing. I'm so, like, I done had goosebumps. I don't know how many times. I'm just going to let y'all know that. Okay.
I'm just saying, all of God. And like, I can't wait. So if you all who are listening out there, if you guys have a prophetic or a suddenly or a supernatural love story, send it to us, Ray and Natasha Watson at gmail.com, or you can just send us an inbox on Instagram at Suddenly Marriage, because I know there are so many out there. Even as after me and Ray got married, we started to see last year, 2020 was a very, very interesting year. God connected a lot of people together suddenly. And I had friends who, like some of my missionary sisters, at least 2 or 3 of them got married really quickly. And it was just like, God was just like, move it. And I believe this year is going to be the same thing happening. You know what I mean? Like, I just sense that like this is another supernatural year. And I wrote it on Instagram, but in 2018, the Lord kept pointing to 2022, and he kept he kept showing me 222. And I didn't understand why. I didn't realize it was 2022. I thought it was like February 22nd and, 12, like December 22nd. And I didn't think about 2022. And so I was in prayer, and I did a whole word study. And like last week or 2 weeks ago, I was in prayer, and the Lord literally revealed to me that the reason, like, that he was pointing to 2022 back in 2018 when he kept pointing it out. And so then I started to research again, the significance of 222, and it's associated with the supernatural, barren women having birth, people who were not married getting married. It is just a lot. Even I believe the tree of life is attached to a verse of in Revelation, I believe, in the 222s, and it's just like so much. So I believe that the Lord is really going to do something amazing this year for many of you that are listening. And so send us your testimonies. Any last words, ladies, before we go?
No, we're just in awe. All that you guys have accomplished already in the last year. Like, y'all have accomplished a whole lot between ministry, podcasts, like y'all teaching all the time. Like, it's a purposeful marriage.
By the grace of God. By the grace of God. Ladies.
I would say that one of the things that I really did notice was that there was like Ray complimented Tasha's personality, because Natasha can be very bossy, you guys. Okay. And so because she can be very bossy at times, Ray balances that out. It doesn't take away from him being the man of God or take away from him being the man at all. It's just that when I noticed the two of them together, when I finally was able to meet him and see how they interacted together in the same space and all of that, like it was just, he complimented her and she complimented him. And so it was just a good balance. There are so many moments that we've had though, like over time. But one of the things that I can say is, as my friend and watching her go on to that next level of her life. And this is to those friends who are still in the wait, and you have to watch your friend go to that next level. They're still your friends. There are things that shift though in the friendship. So we're not always on the phone as much. We still text, we still talk, but it's not like how it used to be in the single stage, because now we're respecting the fact that Tasha has a household, you know, her marriage and all of the other things that are added. So when she got married, there was levels and additions to her life, not just family wise. There was other things and duties as a wife that she had to do. And so just not having time for that friend at times, that's something that people often miss. And so just learning how to reshape that friendship is really, really a journey as well. And so when we see each other and we haven't talked, you always hear us say, oh, well, I miss you, I haven't seen you, because we haven't, but we're still friends, we're still able to talk. And so I just wanted to say that, because you are really, I mean, like, we were super duper excited that it was happening and we were all in it at the same time. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, wow, okay, it's happened and now we're in it. Okay. And so hey Tasha, can you do this? She was like, give me like 30 minutes or give me an hour. I'm gonna call you back in an hour. So it's like you have to respect the fact that your friend has to balance that new in addition to, you know, what she was accustomed to doing. So I just wanted to say that, because that was a part of our journey that some people may not really talk about too much, that we had to learn to accept. And, you know, not that we don't love Ray, we love Ray, but we just had to make adjustments to respect the fact that Tasha's now married, you know, to Ray. And they got to, you know, do their thing as husband and wife. So, yeah.
I think Natasha, you guys represent Proverbs 10:22 well, where it says, the blessings of the Lord maketh rich and addeth no sorrow. So with that, you know, with marriages that happen suddenly or marriages that happen supernaturally, you know, the blessings from God, they should make rich, they should make you joyful, they should make your soul happy, you know, and should not add sorrow. And you guys represent that well. And I think anyone that experiences a supernatural marriage should be living in the Proverbs 10:22 blessing of that as well.
Wow, that's really good. And it's funny because I think about that a lot. I actually think about that verse a lot. Because I used to say it a lot and I would minister it, because I have an organization called 10 Blessings Inspiration. And that was one that I would use a lot when I would talk about blessings. And so to hear you say that, it's like, that is true. And I was actually thinking about that the other day, because Ray adds like no sorrow to my life. It's like, he literally adds to me. It's crazy, because I'm like, yo, there is like not a complaint. If I'm complaining about him, it's like because of me and my flesh, you know what I mean? Or like it's something petty, like he left his stuff on the floor, or you know what I mean? But it's literally nothing that I can really complain about with him. And I just be like, Lord, and I literally walk around the house thanking the Lord, because I could remember the days on my floor when I would pray on my face, think about a husband or my future or stability. Like there was so many times where I just wasn't stable. And even how Tokeitha talked about like things shifted. Tokeitha walked with me really closely through my time in seminary. And that time was a lonely, isolated time with all of you all that were in the DMV, and I was there by myself and, you know, these new friends, but it wasn't like us, you know what I mean? And so I really had many moments of isolation during that time, but me and Tokeitha still did prayer calls. We still, you know, did ministry together. We still would talk and build programs together. And she walked with me during that, and you walked with me, TK, during that time really, really closely. And so to hear you say that, it's like, and now I'm remembering, like, yo, it is a big shift, because I was by myself in an apartment, you know what I mean? And I had this room, y'all. That room was my place. It was like I had all my stuff on the wall, my visions, all of it. And then my walk-in closet, it was like that was me and God's space, you know what I mean? But now it's like, wow, from that place now to here, being able to see how those prayers we prayed, and I prayed, and all of us prayed, and the words we spoke over each other, seeing it come into life, and even me seeing those words come into pass in y'all's life in different ways, you know, because you guys are all successful as well. And so, my God, thank you, Jesus. Okay. Everybody, all of y'all who have been watching and listening, listen, stay locked, because there is much more in this series, in this episode. My husband is going to have his own episode. So you guys are going to get kind of like such a full 360-degree view of Ray and I and our journey to a supernatural love story. So thank you once again for tuning in to Settling Marriage. Stay locked, because we have more coming up.